Okay, you've practiced the upper notes, you're familiar with that, and now we're going to play the lower notes with the right hand. So the only difference between the left hand and the right hand in terms of playing the flute is with the right hand you're going to move all three of your fingers, whereas with the left hand you're only moving the upper two notes, keeping that ring finger glued down. Okay, and that's our 5-hole style play for the flute. Later on you can play 6-hole style, but we're just learning 5-hole style right now. So thumb in back, little finger supports. If you like, you can use what's called the Cradle Technique, and this was shown to me by my fellow flute harvest teacher, Clint Goss. So a lot of people will approach playing the flute with a perpendicular finger angle like this, and you can do that, but it might be more comfortable to angle your fingers and feel like you're really cradling the flute in your fingers. And if you do that, you notice that you can kind of grab onto more of the flute body, and it might give you a greater sense of security, and it might help you become more accurate when you're placing your fingers. You just have to experiment and see how you feel with that. But try both ways of traditional, kind of more perpendicular, and then angling your fingers down at a slight angle, which is called the Cradle Technique. Okay, remembering to use the pads of your fingers, so you want to have that full coverage, and little finger can float around or it can support on the flute body. We're going to keep our left hand fingers glued down this time. We're not going to use our left hand fingers at all, so just keep them all covering the holes. And let's start with the first finger of the right hand. Okay, practice a little bit with the one finger, and then you might want to pause this, practice, and then continue. We're going to continue to add fingers as we move down. So first finger, become comfortable with that, then practice with your top two fingers on your right hand. Keep in mind that you want to open up the lower hole first, place the upper hole, then the one below it, and then open the one below, and then the upper. So we're doing that carpet rule, down and up, covering and uncovering. Okay, when you feel comfortable, you're going to go for that low note. And the low note on many flutes, you want to back off the breath a little bit. If you don't back off the breath and you play this with the same breath pressure as you're playing at the top end of the flute, you might find that it squeaks a little bit, or you get a different type of note sound. So you may, depending on your flute and how hard you're blowing, you may need to use a little bit more of a gentle breath pressure to get that bottom note to sound resonant. But you'll just have to experiment. Here's what it sounds like when I use all three fingers on my right hand. So I recommend practicing from the top down. The low note is probably the most difficult to play and get to sound good, not only because of the breath, but because if you think about it, you've got to make sure that all of these holes are completely covered and there's no leaks. If you open up, you get a little crack, get a little air leak in one of these holes, this is what could happen. So if that's what you've been hearing, you want to just go back to the top, take it one hole at a time until you build up some confidence and some skill and some muscle memory, and then end with the bottom note, all right? So in the next lesson, we're going to be looking at how to play some leaps and play up and down the whole register of the flute. If you're a novice or experienced flute player, consider joining us at Flute Harvest, Native Flute Retreat. Find out more at fluteharvest.com.